I died for 5 minutes. That's what they told me later. 5 minutes without a heartbeat. 5 minutes where, medically speaking, I wasn't here anymore. No pulse, no measurable rhythm. Just silence where a lifetime of heartbeats used to be. What I experienced during that silence did not resemble what I had imagined death would be. There was no tunnel, no clouds, no dramatic music swelling in the background, no bright gates opening, no voice calling my name. Instead, I was confronted with something far more unsettling. I saw my life, not the version I had proudly narrated over the years, not the carefully constructed story built around hard work, responsibility, and sacrifice. What I saw was the raw footage, unedited, unfiltered, and painfully honest. It was my life as it had actually been lived, not as I had explained it. I saw the version my wife experienced, the version my children felt, the version that lingered in rooms after I walked out of them. And that difference, the gap between intention and impact, is why I am telling you this now. Because in those 5 minutes, I did not see what I meant to do. I saw what I actually did. I did not see my good intentions or the pressure I carried. I saw the emotional wake I left behind. If your life were measured that way, not by your plans to fix things someday, not by your reasons, not by your responsibilities, but by your daily choices, would you be proud of what played back? That is the question those 5 minutes forced me to confront, and I was not ready for the answer. My name is Richard Lawson. I am 80 years old. Most people call me Rick. I have lived in Cedar Falls, Iowa, my entire life. I have been married to my wife, Mary, for 58 years. We raised 2 children together. I worked at the same manufacturing plant for 35 years. I showed up every day. I provided. I stayed steady. From the outside, I looked like a good man, the kind of man people trust. The kind of man who does what he is supposed to do. But here's the truth I only understood after my heart stopped. I am closer to the end of my life than the beginning. That is not fear speaking. That is arithmetic. At 80 years old, most of my story has already been written. There are more chapters behind me than ahead of me. And when you truly feel that, not just intellectually understand it, but feel it, something shifts inside you. You begin to see time differently. You begin to understand that time is the only asset you never get back. You can lose money and earn it again. You can lose status and rebuild it. You can even damage your health and fight your way back. But time, once spent, is gone. No refunds. No extensions, no appeals. So before I go deeper into what happened, I am going to ask you to do something simple. Subscribe to this channel, not because I care about numbers, but because I care about timing. I want these lessons to reach someone before their own 5 minutes arrive without a warning. As long as I still wake up and see the morning light through my kitchen window, I will speak honestly about the mistakes I disguised as responsibility, about the silence I once called strength, about the postponement I labeled patience. I cannot go back and relive my 40s. I cannot redo those Saturdays when my children were small and asking for just a little more of my attention. But maybe you are still in your 40s. So ask yourself before we go any further, how old are you? And what is one thing you keep promising yourself you will do later? Say it clearly in your mind. Now say it out loud. The word later is a dangerous word. I built half my life on it. What happened that Tuesday did not feel dramatic at first. There was no lightning bolt, no cinematic warning. I was standing in my kitchen with a cup of coffee on the counter while Mary folded laundry in the living room. The clock ticked the way it always had. Then I felt a pressure in my chest, not sharp, not stabbing, just heavy, as if someone had quietly placed a weight on me. I remember thinking, almost annoyed, that this was inconvenient. That was the kind of man I had become. Even at the edge of my life, I was concerned about inconvenience. When the room tilted and everything went dark, I found myself in what felt like a hallway made of moments. They were not random, they were precise. I saw Tom at 7 years old holding up a drawing and saying, "Dad, look," and I saw myself nodding without really looking. I felt the small drop in his chest when he realized I was not paying attention. I saw Mary across the dinner table, speaking about her day while my mind was still at work. I felt her quiet loneliness. I saw Lisa at 15 after her first heartbreak, standing at my office door, and I heard myself say, "Give me a minute." In that replay, I felt the exact moment she decided not to come back. There were no angels, no voices explaining anything. There was only awareness. I did not see promotions or overtime hours or retirement savings. I saw impact. I saw that my life, in its truest measurement, had been counted in moments of presence or absence. One Saturday afternoon stood out above the rest. Tom had asked me to throw a baseball with him, and I had said, "Not now, I am tired." In my memory, that moment had always seemed small. In that hallway, it was enormous. I watched him stand in the yard, glove on, looking toward the house, waiting. Then I watched him go back inside. That was the last time he asked me to play. In that space, I understood something that frightened me more than death itself. My greatest failures were not explosive mistakes that everyone could point to and name. They were quiet postponements, small delays, harmless-sounding phrases like, "Not now, maybe next week, after things calm down." Providing is not the same as loving. Silence is not strength. Stability, the very thing I was most proud of, can slowly turn into emotional cowardice if you use it to avoid vulnerability. I always believed I was doing the right thing because I was responsible. I paid the bills. I fixed what broke. I stayed steady when things felt uncertain. But love is not measured in repairs and paychecks. It is measured in presence, in eye contact, in patience, in choosing to stay in the conversation when it gets uncomfortable. You think you have time to repair moments later. You assume there will be another Saturday, another dinner, another chance to say what you meant to say. But moments do not wait in storage. They expire. And when they do not ask for your permission. They simply disappear, taking a piece of connection with them. When I woke up in the hospital, the first thing I felt was pressure on my hand. Not pain, not fear, pressure. Mary was holding my hand like she was anchoring me to this world. Her fingers were wrapped around mine so tightly it almost hurt, as if she was afraid that if she loosened her grip even slightly, I would drift away again. The room was bright, too bright. Machines hummed beside me. I could hear the steady rhythm of a monitor, a sound I had taken for granted my entire life. Beep, 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 each one a reminder that I was still here. Mary's eyes were red from crying, not loud, just tired, relieved, shaken. 58 years of shared life standing at the edge of almost losing everything. They told me my heart had stopped for 5 minutes. 5 minutes. I do not claim to fully understand what happened in that space between heartbeats. I only know what changed the moment I opened my eyes and saw her standing there. She did not say, "You scared me." She did not lecture me. She just leaned forward and whispered, "You're still here." And something inside me broke. Because I realized how close she had come to sitting alone in that house we built together. How close she had come to folding laundry in silence for the rest of her life. How close my children had come to replaying old voicemails just to hear my voice. In the days that followed, recovery was slow. Walking felt different. Breathing felt intentional. Every step down the hospital hallway felt like borrowed time. Mary never left my side. She brought a small notebook from home. I remember watching her sit in that stiff hospital chair, writing things down. "What are you writing?" I asked. "A list," she said. "A list of things we were going to do. Not someday, not when things calm down. With dates. Visit Tom in October. No excuses. Take Lisa and her family to dinner next month. Go to the lake before summer ends. Sit on the porch every Sunday evening. No phones. Talk. Really talk." She looked at me and said, "We are not postponing our life anymore." And for the first time in decades, I agreed without hesitation. My life is no longer measured in productivity. It is measured in presence. I stopped postponing apologies. I stopped cutting conversations short. I stopped treating interruptions as inconveniences. I sit longer. I listen fully. I say I love you without rationing it like it is a limited resource. Because here is the truth, those 5 minutes carved into me. You do not die only when your heart stops. You die in small pieces every time you choose absence over presence. One day, one of us will sit alone in that house. That is not negativity. It is reality. And when that day comes, what will matter will not be what I provided, but how I made them feel. Whether I looked up when they said my name, whether I stayed when it was uncomfortable, whether I chose connection over convenience. So if your life were replayed today, not your intentions, not your explanations, but your actual moments, what would it show? Who needs your full attention tonight? I was given 5 more minutes of heartbeat. You still have yours. The question is not whether you will die someday. The question is whether you are fully living right now. And if you are not, what are you going to stop postponing? If this message reaches you before it is too late, then those 5 minutes were not wasted. If even one person decides to make a phone call tonight, to sit a little longer at the table, to say what they have been holding back for years, then those 5 minutes mattered. Thank you for watching. Truly. I do not take your time lightly anymore because I know exactly how valuable it is. If this story stirred something in you, do not ignore it. Do not scroll past it. Write it down. Leave it in the comments. What are you postponing? And why? What conversation have you been avoiding? What name keeps coming to your mind while you listen to this? Be honest. Not for me. For yourself. Like and subscribe to these life lessons if you believe time is your most valuable asset. I share these stories for one reason only, to prevent even one single soul from making the same quiet mistakes I made for decades. You still have your days. Please use them.